I'm looking at him.
Yes. We're not here.
Yeah. All right, in 3, 2, 1. Go on.
Welcome to another episode of J Talk. I am thrilled to be here today with a man that I've known my whole life. His family has been close to my family since I was born. You know, he's been a big figure in my life, and I'm just privileged to be able to have him on J Talk today to talk about his life, some of the things he's done. Founder of Mediae, executive producer of shows such as Makutano Junction and Shamba Shape UP, David Thump Campbell. It's an absolute pleasure to have you here today.
Very good to be here.
So, you know, what a body of work you've created in your life. Tell me, looking back at the amazing things you've done, how do you feel and how do you kind of reflect on what you've created?
Well, I hardly have the time actually to sit and reflect on what's
Not
going
yet.
on. Yeah, because we're carrying on, you know, trying to produce this stuff. But looking back, it's quite remarkable, really, because I had this sort of idea when I was 20 years old that I was studying agriculture at Reading University, and I thought to myself, do I really need to learn more about agriculture? And I traveled through Africa. I actually hitchhiked. I came and stayed with your mum and dad back then. And I traveled down to Cape Town and back up to and stayed with families. And what came to me was that what we really need is information. It wasn't that people couldn't do it or didn't have the capacity to do it, new agriculture, improve their productions. They just, no one had told them. Okay. And so I look back. When I look back, I look at it's quite remarkable. It was almost an epiphany, that idea, and I've stuck with that idea, and it's led to, you know, all sorts of different kind of approaches to try and do it. But basically, my reflection is: have I achieved that objective? And frankly, not yet.
Not yet. But you made a big dent on it, I would say.
We've had a bit. We've made some progress. Yeah, with some fantastic Kenyan team that we've built.
Yeah. Over
the last 15 years or so, and we're really lucky.
Yeah.
The other interesting thing is that we've been able to almost make decisions about how we broadcast, who we broadcast with, which I think in the Western world you'd have difficulty. So we've had that real opportunity to think up ideas, go with programming, get in the team of people, the Kenyans who can do this stuff, and actually get it out there to millions of people. Whereas, I mean, I think if I'd tried to do this probably in Europe or somewhere, there'd been absolutely no chance whatsoever because of the structures and really hard.
So tell us maybe a little bit about the history of, has there always been Mediae Group, or what was the first thing that you did that was in this realm?
Well, it was from that age. I went back to Reading after my travelling through Africa, and I changed my course. I stopped doing agriculture, and I moved to media. Okay. And my objective was to look at how can we communicate with African people. I was born in Uganda, brought up in Basutoland, Lesotho, so I came from here. And how could I help that process? What could I really do? So that was the idea. How could I use media, or how could I reach? So I wrote my dissertation on how to use images to communicate with semi-literate people, and I studied that issue. At that time, we didn't have the portable video cameras, the kind of technology and digital equipment we've got now. Yeah. But we did have radio, and so when I first came out, I actually got a job when I left university. Okay. I got a job. And my job was to go, in those days it was very different.
Out of the UK or in Kenya?
Out of the UK. I got the job to here in Kenya. And in those days it was much, much easier. It was, Campbell, can you go to Kenya and see how we could use media to reach rural people and improve their livelihoods? And that was the brief. So I came to Kenya. I found I could set up with the Ministry of Agriculture. We built the Agriculture Information Resource Centre. And we started stabilizing the information by publishing technical reference handbook for all the field workers. And we looked at radio. And it became very clear to me that the kind of radio and the kind of media, which was very sort of didactic, you must plant your crops like this and you must do this, was just not really reaching people.
So what was that first show called that you launched?
So what we launched was, there's a radio program in England called The Archers, which is a radio soap.
Long running, radio soap. Yeah.
Very long running, very popular. And it's issue-led.
Yes.
It deals with issues. It was actually set up in the war, in the Second World War, to get food production improved in Britain. And we adopted that model, and it was called Tembena Majira. And we got on to the radio. We were at 8 p.m. on a Sunday evening for half an hour. There's drama. It was a soap. And then we had a discussion, and you could phone in. And we started that in 1990.
Wow.
And it ran until 2004. And in 1998, we had 8 million listeners. We were Sunday at 8 p.m. The best time to be there. It was actually said that if you wanted to have an affair, the best time was Sunday evening at 8 p.m. Because if you moved from one house to another house in the village, nobody would see you. They were all at home listening to their radios.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And then from that, Makutano Junction was the next thing, was it? Was there something
Well,
else
what
between?
we saw, we did some research. We always do research on our programming. You know, we were tracking the numbers of people listening. We're very keen on knowledge, attitude, and practice. So, what do you know? What do you think? What are you doing about this issue?
Okay.
And then we after 3 months, we track now. What do you know? What do you think? What are you doing? Where have we got changes in knowledge? Where have we got people thinking about different things? And in the programs, we're showing the benefits of changing practices. Is anyone adopting? So that's really the basis of our whole programming.
Wow.
And we do research on that. And in that research, we discovered 98, we had 8 million. 2000, we had about 4 million listeners. 2002, we had about 2.5 million listeners. Why? And everyone thought that I don't think anyone had really looked at this closely because of the growth of television.
Yeah, that makes sense.
The Great Wall of China black and white TV set was $50.
Yeah.
You could connect it to anything. That was the very clever thing they did. Do you know why matatus are parked? If you drive around Mount Kenya on the eastern side, the mountain coming down like this, do you know why all the matatus are parked on the left-hand side of the road facing down?
No, it's probably something to do with TV.
Well, it is, because what they do is they come in, they've been driving around during the day, they park their matatu there on the slope, they take the battery out, they go home, they watch the Great Wall of China black and white TV set, they carry it back, put it in the matatu and bump start it down the hill.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, and that's how so really matatus are just basically recharging the battery for television.
Great. And then, so the transition to producing TV, what was that change?
Well, what we saw in the data was this huge change to TV and this massive rural population.
But personally, in your own kind of skill set?
Because television is without doubt. I was always interested in television. And in fact, began just before I came out to England. I came to Kenya in 1979, working for DFID, the British government, to do this, look at media and how can we improve things. And we just got the first portable Sony camera when I came out. So we started work with that. But, television is way more powerful than radio. There is no doubt. You can see, you can hear. And it certainly has a much better change in the cap. If you're studying the cap changes, you get much bigger, knowledge, attitude, practice change with TV. So we said, okay, we've got this huge radio audience. And it's dropped down. And the other reason, of course, it dropped down was that the government had finally let go and licensed out to other radio stations because it was very tightly controlled prior to that point. But pressure from outside, pressure from inside, commercial radio stations started.
And you've built a great team, as you reference, of people with you on the ground in Kenya and a great acting team as well.
Yes.
How do you think about, building that team in sort of an entrepreneurial sense, and then sourcing that talent that you need to make it successful?
We've got many people. Most of the actors, for example, in Makutano Junction, started with us. They'd never been on television before, and they came from the National Theatre, and we interviewed them. I think what's happened to us, the really good thing we've been able to do by raising the funding, we've brought in directors from, some of the leading English soap directors from, Casualty to The Bill, EastEnders. Makutano Junction to me I call it EastEnders in Embu, and that it was it was that kind of issue-led series, and that's what it should be. And having those directors come in is what taught us all how different. It's what the director knows, and they had incredible experience. They didn't really have much of an African experience, but our writers were all from Kenya, and they were growing. We brought in script editors, the chief editor of The Bill, the chief editor of Casualty. We had different ones coming in, and everyone learned a huge amount from that. And we did as well, because we weren't really that good at it.
Yeah.
Like our first drama series was actually in Uganda, called Centre 4, based in a health centre. And I never forget the extraordinary, exciting development through that of how we were all learning,
and I'm sure the learning process continues.
All the time.
Yeah.
And we try to bring in people. We're about to bring back Shani Grewal, who's an Asian director based in London, who's done a number of films and won a lot of awards, and he's volunteered to come back. And I would say, and the crew and the team have been pressurizing me, saying, let's get Shani back, because he really is good. Right. And he somehow sits into this environment.
So we've got Makutano Junction, Shamba Shape UP, No Zone. Now you've got Shamba Chef and Don't Lose the Plot coming up.
Okay, so we're trying to scale Mediae up.
Yeah.
I mean, frankly, what we're looking for is we're hoping at some point that some investor will come in. And the reason for that is that we've been producing Makutano and Shamba Shape UP, and that's fine. We can show incredibly good development outcomes from this. I don't know if you know, but Shamba Shape UP is the African Enterprise Challenge Fund's most successful project in impact. Yeah. And we did a huge piece of research. We interviewed 13,000 farmers, and from that we got data on 2,500 farmers, dairy farmers, and we went and they were interviewed, and it came out that $24 million worth of increased milk production in Kenya could be directly attributed to Shamba Shape UP. And when you get those kind of impacts and getting people banked, we've had really good data and statistics on all of that stuff. But what we wanted to do then was to show, okay, this works in Kenya. We've worked it here. We've got teams and crews. In 1 year, we went 2 new series. Don't Lose the Plot. That's the youth going into farming as a business program.
Okay.
A competition on the Shamba.
And your daughter Anna is involved
And Anna, my daughter,
who I grew up with, my age mate.
Yes, exactly.
That's really cool.
Yes, and so she came because she's been in a reality show in England on the BBC.
Yeah.
So she came and worked with young people all the way through. So, it wasn't me, the old fart, so really aging out here now, because it was about youth and trying to make that fun and sexy to get into farming. It was good to have them in there, So we did that, and then we did Shamba Chef from Shamba Shape UP. So in 1 year, we produced Shamba Shape UP, Don't Lose the Plot, Shamba Chef, and Makutano Junction. So
that's prolific. Not much sleep then.
No, I mean you're talking and Shamba. Don't forget that Shamba Shape UP and Shamba Chef are in English and Swahili.
Wow!
So
it doubles the work.
And we're pumping it, and people come from all over the world to work with us. Americans, Australians, different. We've had different people with us, and not one of them has. They've all said we have never really worked with such a good team of people and such a dedicated group of people. And I think that's, the thing we keep going. So in order to grow Mediae, we need to show we can do other programming.
Yeah.
And now, just came back 2 days ago, and we start the new drama series in Uganda. So we can take these other programs that we're doing.
Oh, hello. we have a guest on the show.
Yes. So we can actually go to another country.
Okay.
So this can scale, and if you're someone if you're coming out to Africa and you're a Fox or you're a TV station that wants African quality product and programming, then come to Mediae, because that's what we produce.
Yeah, no, I think American media investors would be well advised to try to take advantage
I would say
you.
so. Yeah.
And elsewhere in the world, European ones at that.
Yeah.
Well, David, or Thump, as I know you way better, it's just a real privilege, an honor to be able to chat with you today.
Really
and
good fun.
thank you for coming on and helping support what I'm trying to create here. And
No, we're really good. You must keep doing it.
And well done on all your success and continued success into the future. Thank you for what you've done for Kenya and helping Maendeleo in Kenya.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, nice to see you.
Thanks.
Very good to see you.
It's a wrap.
Cool.